Two people lay dead in the home where they once tucked their son into bed.no forced entry.no stranger, just one name echoing through the investigation, the child they raised. In a quiet Los Angeles neighborhood, the kind where hedges are trimmed and arguments stay behind closed doors, a married couple built a life most people would call normal. They were parents, routine people, not wealthy celebrities, not reckless thrill seekers. They raised a son who grew into adulthood under their roof. 32 years old, still connected, still family. To outsiders, nothing suggested danger.no, restraining orders.no, public meltdowns.no, flashing red flags. Which is why what happened next shattered every assumption about safety, family, and trust. Because when police arrived at the house that day, they weren't searching for a suspect, they were searching for answers. And those answers pointed inward. The emergency call was brief, confused, urgent. Officers entered the home expecting chaos. Instead, they found something worse. Stillness. Two parents, lifeless, inside the place meant to protect them. There were no signs of a breakdown.no, shattered windows.no, masked intruder waiting in the shadows. Whoever did this had been welcomed inside. Or never left. And as detectives worked backward through the final hours, one name surfaced again and again. Their son. Nick Reiner wasn't a stranger to the house. He knew the layout, the routines, the quiet moments when no one else was around. He was charged with killing both of his parents, a crime so unthinkable it stopped people mid-sentence when they heard it. Friends struggled to reconcile the accusation. Neighbors asked the same question on repeat. How does a son become a suspect in his parents' deaths? But prosecutors believed this wasn't a crime of opportunity. They believed it was personal. And possibly intentional. Here's what makes this case unsettling. There were no loud, public arguments.no, police calls in the past.no, visible violence. Just subtle fractures. Tension at home, unspoken resentment. A grown son still tied to the household, financially, emotionally, or psychologically. Investigators would later say that sometimes the most dangerous conflicts are the ones no one else hears. The ones whispered behind closed doors, the ones that build silently until they explode. How many families are sitting on that same pressure right now, and how would anyone know? Authorities believe the killings happened inside the family home. A familiar setting turned fatal. No signs of struggle that spilled into the street.no, screams reported by neighbors. Which suggests something even more chilling. The victims likely knew what was happening. Or who was responsible. That realization alone sent shockwaves through investigators. What happens in the final moments when betrayal comes from your own child? Do you argue, beg, or sit in disbelief? Those answers may never be known. When Nick Reiner was charged, the case took an unexpected turn. Prosecutors announced they were considering the death penalty, a punishment California rarely uses. Executions have been paused for years. Death row inmates wait decades. Some never face execution at all. Yet here, in a case involving family, prosecutors signaled they were willing to pursue the harshest sentence available. Why? Because of what they believe the evidence shows, because of the brutality, because of intent. And because some crimes are considered so severe, the system feels forced to make a statement. This wasn't just about murder. It was about crossing a line society struggles to comprehend. Detectives examined everything. Phone records, text messages, financial disputes, psychological history. They searched for motive, money, control, anger, desperation. But motive doesn't always come neatly wrapped. Sometimes it's years of resentment, sometimes it's entitlement, sometimes it's something no report can fully explain. What they did find was enough to charge Nick Reiner with 2 counts of murder. And suddenly, the question wasn't who did it. It was how far will the punishment go? As the case moved through the courts, attention shifted beyond the crime itself. California's death penalty system, rarely used, endlessly debated, was back in the spotlight. Some argued execution was necessary, others called it symbolic, others questioned whether the state should ever decide who lives and who dies. Meanwhile, 2 parents were gone. No appeals could bring them back. No verdict could undo the damage. A family tree ended at the root. This story isn't just about a crime, it's about the terrifying truth that violence doesn't always come from strangers. Sometimes it grows inside the home, fed by silence, ignored warning signs, and the assumption that family equals safety. Nick Reiner now faces life without parole or death. But the most disturbing part? No sentence can explain how a son allegedly crossed that line. And no parent can ever imagine their child being the last person they see. So ask yourself this tonight: how well do we ever truly know the people closest to us?